welcome to my fourth chess analysis video. Today we have my opponent, aijazitoo, rated 1121, playing out of India, playing as white versus myself, playing as black, rated 1091 at the start of the game. Just a little bit different than how we've been doing before. We've been looking on Lead Chess. Today I used my one free game report from chess.com. So we'll be looking at it through this. Just a quick, at the top, next to our names, you can see the accuracy, myself at about 87 and my opponent around 78. So that's just a measure of how accurate our moves were considered to be played versus the engine. If you look at the graph down here, it is the advantage, showing the advantage. So as you can see, I had the advantage most of the game. I blundered, but luckily he completely missed it, which would have been a very different game if he would have seen it. This is just, if you've never seen the chess.com app, this is just a little thing that will let you go through and see the key moments from the game. It's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty neat animation. You can see here this major blunder. But after the first 13 or so moves, most of the game was played, I think, pretty accurately. It didn't have much to say about it. And then at the end, it's just talking about there was faster ways to mate during the king and queen versus king. So anyway, getting into the game itself, we have d4, queen's pawn opening. I respond with d5, and he plays e4 on a second move, which is the Blackmar Demir gambit. And I decline the gambit and just play e6, which is the French. He brings out his knight, and then I play what's called the Rubinstein variation. I didn't know the name to it, but I figured this move looked appealing to me, and I played it pretty quickly. This was considered a good move. He offered free chow, and I took it. He brings his queen out, and the computer's saying that he should have took with the knight to develop, his minor pieces first. I wasn't really worried about his king. As you can see, the pawn on d4 was hanging and is going to stay hanging, and I just don't take it, even though it is completely free. I didn't want to bring out my queen too early either, so I just continued to develop. Here I castle, just bringing the king to relative safety. Should I have castled in this situation? I don't think the computer likes it as much because his queen and his bishops are kind of staring down to my king, so I guess I would technically be castling into danger, but I had a plan to start trading away his minor pieces, so I wasn't really worried about it. So after opposite side castling, as you saw in my second video, if you watched that, opposite side castling is going to be a race to see who can pawn storm into a nice attack. This computer considers this a mistake. There was, again, the free chow was still there, but my main thing is I'm trying to fight for c3 right now. I want to mess up his pawn structure and trade off some minor pieces. So he allows me to do this. I take with the bishop first. The computer would have rather me taken with the knight, as you can see. It considers taking with the bishop and accuracy, but either way, the way it played out, he takes, at the end of this sequence, he's going to have to take with his b pawn, now wrecking his pawn structure on his queen side in front of his king. So it gives me, this is what I was going for. Now I've traded off his some of his minor pieces, and I've weakened his pawn structure. And I bring out my knight and then completely blunder it. This is just a completely free knight with that pawn that I should have taken about, I don't know, I think the computer was telling me every move for the last 10 moves that I should have taken that pawn, and now I've completely given the knight away for free. He misses it, and I gladly take the knight. The reason I moved the knight there was going for this idea that I would be attacking his queen, and then he would have to move his queen so I could take his knight that was staring down towards my king. But I completely missed the fact that pawns can take diagonally. Just a complete blunder on my part. Really no excuse for that. So I play c5, pawn pushing to break up the center. He takes, and I trade the queen here. I was pretty confident that my pawn structure was better. I have a bishop and he has a knight, so I like my chances in an endgame, so I'm not against trading down for it. The computer wanted me to either check the king or bring the queen out. to 8 or to H. I forget what it was giving me. I went through in the analysis earlier, and I was looking at a couple other options, but it would have liked to see me check the king. But anyway, I play on, and from here, what I'm basically doing is trying to recapture that c-pawn, which I do. Trade off my last of the mining pieces, pick up the pawn. Now he has 2 isolated pawns on his queen side, even though his king is there. I don't mind giving my opponent the open file here, because if he moves it down to d1, I simply take his rook. He takes my rook. I'm okay with a rook trade because my pawns are better right here. And then again, here I'm just mobilizing my rooks. As you can see, I win a pawn in that exchange by the end of it, and now he's lost both of his pawns and his rook on that side, and I only lost 1 pawn, so that was just straight winning a pawn during that exchange. And now what I'm trying to do here is push one of my pawns and get my rook behind the pushing pawn, and at this point he can't stop my pawn from getting down. Now he has to block with his rook, so now his rook's completely out of the game. I think here in my notes, on this move, 39, instead of pushing the pawn, another option it was giving me was to check the king, but the computer likes the pawn push anyway. So what I'm doing here is when he takes, I'm just putting pressure on his pawn, and now he basically, his only hope is to promote that pawn that my king is blocking, which now he can never promote it because my king's there and I'm not going to move it. And now with my extra pawn majority on the side, all these passed pawns, I'm going to just start coming down. So he starts making king moves, lets me have the pawn, and basically runs to the back. I knew here that if he was getting that king over there, it would be to try to capture the pawn with the rook. I'm perfectly fine with that because I know how to win with my king in front of my pawn, because I can just walk my pawn down and promote, and then from here all I'm doing is just pushing his king to the edge of the board and checkmating him. Now the computer was giving there was a lot faster mates with king and queen, but I just generally like doing it like this because it's very simple and I'm not going to mess it up, which is just getting the king behind the queen, moving the king up, and then checking the king so he has to move back another rank, and then moving the queen up, keeping him on that next rank until he's on the edge of the board. I can checkmate him. Yeah, so this is my first game that I'm showing you as black. I've actually been on a pretty good winning streak recently, so I'm going to try to get some games where I lose and cover them too. But this was just my first game that I'm covering as black. Again, things to go from this game is mainly simplifying. I saw I was in a winning position, so I go to simplify because I'm pretty confident that I can win in an endgame where I have an advantage. Yeah, and then on move 12, just not blundering a minor piece. All right, thank you for watching. This is my 4th chess analysis video. All right, see y'all later.